We're back with MSNBC analyst and Vanity Fair correspondent from the podcast there, Molly Jong-Fast. And her latest piece, we should note, is called Mike Johnson's House is Imploding. And our friend Jason Johnson from Morgan State University, also an MSNBC analyst. Molly, your thoughts?
You know, I thought that was a pretty incredible monologue, Ari, and you got a lot of things in there and you pulled them all together. And what I would say is you have really important, wildly unpopular issues that Republicans are trying to push, right? Like choice, people don't want their rights taken away. IVF, wildly popular, it has given many childless couples children. I mean, it's a huge thing. A lot of this is not popular. And also, Republicans are super disorganized, right? They didn't take the number 2 person in the House. They didn't put the number 2 person in leadership. They didn't put the number 3 person in leadership. They put the guy who Donald Trump picked. And let's be honest, Mike Johnson serves at the pleasure of Donald J. Trump. And so we have a House that's really a mess. I mean, he can't control his caucus, and there's a one-person motion to vacate, which he left in place. So at any point, one person can call this whole thing off.
Yeah. And Molly, the spotlight that these issues put on not only, as I mentioned, the attacks on liberty, but the very clear explanation. I mean, as I read, that people should know going into November and make up their own mind. That's a judge who says his religious views will control other people's lives.
Yeah, and I mean, Heritage Foundation is in this quest to make IVF, to regulate IVF, which is completely unpopular. No one wants that. The anti-choice crew coming after IVF is just totally out of left field. And I think it really speaks to a Republican Party that has no control, right? Like it's Donald Trump, and then there's no one running the show under him. So there is no Nancy Pelosi in the House. There's no one who can say to these out-of-control members, you're hurting the party, you're hurting these candidates in purple states who need to get reelected. There's none of that. So you have candidates in purple states forced to vote for impeachments, vibe-based impeachments that will go nowhere. You have them forced to vote for things that won't pass and things that are very zealotous and will make them seem, and likely are, very out of touch with the mainstream.
Jason?
Yeah. All right. This is the problem when, as you pointed out, you're not governing for a reason. You're not really trying to run the government. You're trying to push through certain ideologies. And this goes back a while. This goes back to Eric Cantor, right? Like the Republican leadership problem has been, it's been a circular firing squad. It's been first-person shooter for like 10 years, and they're all saying, we don't trust each other. Well, that's what happens, right?
When you can't trust leadership, when you can't organize yourself. Is this a big three? Big the moment?
There are 3 people. This is a big 3. This is a big 3 moment.
I don't want to over-decode, but Jason brought a very topical reference to a J. Cole song, which has a Kendrick rebuttal right now, and I just want to acknowledge that, and we appreciate you for that.
Thank you. And that's what's happening right now, right? Mike Johnson is in his rebuttal phase, but it may not work. And ultimately, this is about a lack of leadership on the part of the Republican Party. And the problem is, as Molly has mentioned, as you've mentioned, our rights are basically hanging in the balance to people who can't figure out who wants to lead them. If there was some ideological drive behind this, if Marjorie Taylor Greene actually believed anything other than Trumpism, if Matt Gaetz believed anything other than Trumpism, then maybe we could say, all right, well, maybe there's a direction to this one way or another, but it's not. It's all about power. It's all about ego and voting rights and abortion rights and fixing bridges. Functional things about America are in the balance because they can't figure out who they dislike the most.
Yeah. Jason, did you know that you and Laura Ingraham have a little bit of agreement? Did you know that?
Oh, that's something I would not have expected.
Well, take a listen and find out. Take a listen.
That is a surprise to me.
This pains me to say this. Thanks, Mike. Hope future Speaker Hakeem Jeffries sent you a nice fruit basket today. I have never witnessed what I'm witnessing now. A party with a narrow majority in the House of Representatives, everything on the line in the country, but committing a slow suicide, the party. This is why conservatives call the GOP the stupid party, by the way.
Jason.
Well, it's true. It's true. And here's the thing. I don't entirely blame Mike Johnson. I don't agree with his ideology, right? He is dealing with a caucus that's not interested in actual leadership. But at the same time, he can't seem to control the narrative. Everybody seems to be afraid of Marjorie Taylor Greene, even though she only speaks for a certain caucus. You now literally have people in the Republican Party trying to primary the House Republican, the House Conservative caucus. There doesn't seem to be any base of power. There's not even a clique that people can necessarily operate from because the teams seem to be changing every single week. I wouldn't entirely blame Mike Johnson because he can't herd cats on his own, but his inability to control the narrative, his inability to incentivize his own party to say, hey, guys, we're going to lose everything if we can't keep this together is an indicator of his overall weak leadership.
Molly?
There's a perverse incentive structure in this GOP. So people like Matt Gaetz raised a ton of money ousting Kevin McCarthy, and the Gaetz ate. So what's happening is you have these people like Marjorie Taylor Greene who want to get famous and want to raise money. And they don't really care about passing legislation because, remember, this whole party is sort of a burn it down party, right? I mean, Trump's whole thing was that he kind of wanted to kill the federal government. And when you get these people going, they say, like, you know, destroy the Department of Education, destroy the department. You have a Senate candidate in Montana, a Republican, who says they should destroy the Department of Homeland Security. I mean, these are not pro-government people. So it actually sets them up for this incentive structure. So they act crazy, raise money, and do it again and again.
Yeah, I think you both diagnosed particularly well, and that's why the criticism is so much louder. It's not left on right or D on R, right? It's just now Republicans saying, look what we ended up with. Of course, they fed that very environment. As for the lesser matter of keeping a musical score, pun intended, we had a Kendrick and a J. Cole for Jason. Molly, you talked about them burning it down. Was giving very Ben Harper to me. I don't know if that was on purpose or not.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Very good.
Shout out to Ben Harper.
Yes, clearly.
Thanks to both of you.